guys all came out to hear me elaborate.
Can you guys hear? Or
yeah. So thanks so much, and thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Glad you could show together. Yeah. So just want to know. I'm sure you guys have probably sat through some discussions in the Fireside Chat panels. They ask you to hold your questions till the end. We're going to be taking a little bit more of a different approach. If you have a question, I don't want you to wait until you forget it or wait until it's out of context. Please just raise your hand and we'll try and sneak it in. So how did you get involved in single platform? Why do you love BD and Lifehacking?
Yeah, sure. So I got involved with single platform through a VC in town here, Charlie O'Donnell. I guess the story goes is that I was actually working on my own company with a few other guys before single platform. And quite frankly, I was flailing. It was really tough. I had no idea how hard it was to build a technology company, especially not as a native technologist. And I mean, when I started the company, I was, had very rudimentary technical knowledge, and by the end of it, I was doing front-end development that I taught myself with two guys who were working on back-end stuff, and we were like trying to solve a big data problem, which I was just completely not poised to execute effectively on. And I had previously joined Charlie O'Donnell's softball team. He's a guy who has Brooklyn Bridge Ventures, and I don't even like softball at all, actually. I actually think it's really boring, but I wanted to get to know Charlie, and I saw this as like a good opportunity to, not only meet him, but develop rapport through doing a recurring activity with him. And I joined his team, and we got to know each other, and I basically told him that, I was having some challenges with this company after going at it for 8 or 9 months, and he told me that single platform was looking to bring on their first non-exec BD hire, and I went down and I met the guys, and I came back that night and accepted the job. And I guess to your second question, why I love biz dev and life hacking. Well, I think biz dev is really a culmination of all the things that I enjoy. I think it's relationships. I think it's creating, scalable partnerships that grow your business, which is exciting to me. And often those partnerships are unique and require creativity. I think there's a lot of resourcefulness involved in business development, and I would call it almost social creativity versus you hear the word creative and you think about graphic design or maybe somebody with a paintbrush and an easel. But I guess kind of the creativity involved to make people do things for your company that they aren't necessarily comfortable doing initially is a fun challenge for me. And the life hacking stuff, I mean, I'm interested in getting the most out of life in every aspect, and ultimately, being efficient and doing things in a way that allow you to maximize output for yourself and the people that are involved in it is something that kind of aligns with that. So.
Cool. So I know we're going to talk a little bit about cold emailing, but at the same time before that, I know like you said, cold emailing is definitely last resort, first resort being actually going in, getting an introduction into somebody. And you brought up an interesting point at the class I went to last week of yours, where your network, you've actually kind of taken a life hack approach and applied the 80-20 principle to developing your network. So can you talk a little bit about how you've gone about developing your network and meeting people like Charlie?
Yeah, so my goal is, as a business development professional, it's basically I want to be one step. I want to be able to open any door possible for not only the company I work with today, but any company that I'm involved with. And the key to doing that is to having a really robust network of awesome people. And why I think it's why I think that's worthy of an investment is that I could be doing something for single platform today, another company tomorrow, and another company after that. And bottom line is what's going to carry me through my career is people. So that's a scalable asset that will, have fruits for me my entire career, which is why I spend so much time on it. And I think that a lot of people, they hear the word networking and they go to an event like this and they hope they meet someone cool. And that's their strategy. It's like, I'm going to go to an event and hope I meet somebody cool. And personally, I just think there's a much more efficient way to do it, because I could connect with 100 people that might be able to potentially help me out, maybe not, or I could connect to one person who can connect me to 1,000 people that are directly in alignment with the type of people that I want to connect to. So in terms of the best use of my time, I call those people opportunity deltas. I'm going to spend my time not only isolating those people, but also being incredibly intentional about doubling down and building relationships with them. So I literally have a spreadsheet of people that I want to build relationships with, and I methodically go about engaging them and building a relationship with them, instead of just treating the people that I bring into my life and I spend my time building relationships with as something that happens as a matter of circumstance or coincidence. And it's just all about being intentional.
How do people get on your spreadsheet? What's it about? Is it what they are or a specific person?
So I think it's a combination of things. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of people I want to meet, whether it's people that I think are going to help me in business, people that I think a relationship with is going to satiate a particular personal interest of mine.
Is it a specific person like Joe Green?
Yeah, it's literally a specific person.
So you just think about the people that you already have heard of.
So I think about people, so if I read a book of an amazing author and I think that this is somebody I want to bring into my life, I'll put them on the list. If I interact with somebody or read something that somebody writes and I think that somebody's really sharp and is somebody that I would get a lot of value out of being connected with, I'll put them on this list. And I think, it may seem a little, I certainly have a lot of relationships with people that I don't put on a list someday, but I do think that ultimately, there does need to be a certain level of intention to, who we build our relationships with. And it's not to say that, serendipitous ones that you create out there aren't awesome, but I just do think there should be part of your networking should be intentional.
Yeah, it's easy to methodically look at how you want to meet them and connect with them. I mean, a lot of us work in BD. We have kind of our weekly goals. Some of us, or whatever you try. How do you measure it? I'm just kind of curious. Do you have a goal of, I'd like to have lunch with X amount of people or do these things? Can you explain maybe in a given week, maybe what something might be like?
Yeah, so I used to have that goal.
Yeah.
I used to have a goal of I want to connect with. It used to be 1 to 2 people on that list a month,
Okay.
in person, and you honestly reach a point where you just, I guess you reach a point where you have enough people in your life where if you want to get to that person, you have somebody that can probably connect you at a certain point. There's a direct need. So I definitely am still trying to connect those people, but I've kind of moved away from that. And then eventually, the way that I think is scalable networking is creating content. Because I can't go to an event every night. I can't have coffee with every person that emails, so let's grab coffee. But you can still be salient in those people's mind, and you can make them feel like you're connected to them if you're creating content that touches them on a regular basis. So for me, I have a newsletter, a business development newsletter that has 500 people on it, where I curate content and I write content about biz dev. Now, I don't necessarily, all I'm really doing is collecting articles and jobs and maybe writing a little commentary on them. But this is a way for me to touch probably 500 people total, but maybe 60 people that I'd love to get together with frequently, but I just don't have time. Once every month, just to let them what I'm up to, what I'm thinking, and just to be salient in their minds, so when they come across an opportunity or something, or just to let them know how I'm doing and to maintain that relationship. Because I think where people really fail in networking, not only in the relationship building process, but the strengthening of the relationship process is consistency. Ultimately, the difference, how many people here went to a meetup, met somebody cool, and then went to email them and been so fired up they're part of their network, went to email them 5 months later and then crap, they probably won't even remember who I am. Screw it, I'm not gonna email them. Like, happened to me a zillion times. And what bridges the gap between acquaintance and relationship is consistency with value sprinkled in. So if I could consistently provide value to somebody over and over and over again, that's the difference between acquaintance and relationship, and ultimately what puts you in a bucket of people that you can ask this person for something and they'll be willing to do it for you, and there's like a certain level of comfort there.
What are some other ways you kind of create value or sustain that creation of value for those people, aside from content, maybe on a more individual level?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking for opportunities to make people's lives better in a non-abrasive way. So if I come across somebody who I know would benefit from meeting somebody else, I'll ask that person first, hey, I just met this person, they're working on this, it's tangentially related to what you're working on. Would you be interested in talking with them? If they are, I'll make the connection. And one thing that I like to bring up is this just doesn't have to exist with work stuff. Like, people have lives outside of work. So I mean, I make intros to people that I think, like, I meet a great girl and I have a guy friend who's just got out of a bad relationship. Like, I'll make the intro there. Like, people, you shouldn't be looking to only provide value, connect people solely around work stuff.
Right.
So I think that would honestly be the biggest thing. And I think that one important thing to realize is a lot of people, like, I'll just get an intro, like, yo, meet my friend this, who wants to get into biz dev. And like, there was no ask, there was no anything, and it's like, awesome, I'm so pumped that you just threw a burden on my time, and now I have to have an awkward interaction that says, I can't get together with this person because I have work stuff that I need to take care of. So I think one caveat is as you identify opportunities to make mutually beneficial connections, check with both people and make sure that they're okay with the connection. And don't just assume that because there's some relation there that you should connect them, because ultimately otherwise you're potentially putting a burden on somebody's time, which is the last thing you want to do. I think it's a good practice.
Okay. So going back to kind of the list of people you want to meet, before we go on to like cold emailing, just want to talk about like cold meeting somebody. And I remember in your class you mentioned an example of a time when you went down to a conference, you staged like a random like shoulder bump, and you had already had kind of a speech prepared that you wanted to talk about with them. What are some of the key elements of making that good first impression that's going to create a sustainable, lasting relationship?
Yeah, so I do this. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to do it a lot when I was like real, really scrappy.
Yeah.
It's getting old. But the idea is called like creating serendipity, where there's all these tools essentially where you can see where people are going to be online. People are just constantly showcasing where they're going to be, whether it's at a meetup group, on Twitter, at a Skillshare class, or wherever. You can very easily, if you're intentional and targeted, identify where somebody's going to be online, and then where physically they're eventually going to be, and then you can leverage that to your advantage to just happen to run into them, right? So I would do that a lot, people I want to meet. Now the difference is that there's some people, when I first started doing this, I would just show up and throw up. Like, it was like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I've been wanting to meet you. But ultimately, calibrating that with what's effective, it's, okay, I'm going to meet this person. I'm going to not only know exactly what I'm going to say, I'm going to have rehearsed it, and I'm going to do that so that I make a lasting impression on this person. And what my favorite thing to say to somebody that I want to meet is to tell them something that they taught me and tell them how I put that into practice, and it changed me. So the example that I love to use is I read the book Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, and I was like, wow, this guy's so smart. It's the best networking book ever. I need to meet this guy. And I followed him on Twitter, and what do you know? He's at his company Christmas party announcing it in New York 4 days after I followed him. I'm like, sick. Well, and I didn't know it was his company Christmas party. He just said he was going to be at his bar. I was like, all right, I'm gonna meet Keith, and I'm gonna tell him what I learned from his book, and I'm gonna tell him how I used it. And you know, I met Keith, or I saw Keith there, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, this is so random, but you just look really familiar. Did you write Never Eat Alone? Which is like, you know, totally normal question to ask. He's like, yeah, hey, Keith. I'm like, Keith, Scott Britton, like, so nice to meet you. I'm so pumped that I ran into you because you literally changed the way that I thought about networking. Before I read your book, it was always about me, and you know, you taught me this concept of, showed me this concept of never, always providing value to others and without really the expectation that you immediately get something in return. And it's dramatically changed the way I think about networking. And by the way, the other day, I actually helped a friend out unsolicited, and it turns out that 2 days later, he introduced me to somebody who gave me a job interview, and that probably would have happened. And I just wanted to thank you. And all of a sudden, when you tell somebody that they did something, they created something that you put into practice that changed your life, that's way cooler than, hey, what's up? Like, I liked your book.
Yeah.
And you know, you can you can take that module and essentially apply it to anything. It's like, hey, this is the way that I use your internet product. Hey, I read this blog post. Hey, like, I saw this thing that you did and it inspired me to do something similar. And it just really resonates with people. So that's pretty much what I do. And then the second thing on top of that, and I've botched this multiple times, but I'm getting better at it, is, you know, following up with that person and then just like either consistently providing value to them or just like giving them progress updates on your life. Just like constantly just like letting them know that you're there. And that's the extension of, you know, acquaintance to relationship.
So how do you give a progress update without being me?
So I'll start it off with something that's related to them. I'll say, hey, I saw this article, or I saw this event, or I saw this opportunity. I thought you might be interested. I wanted to send you. So it's all about them. And then I'll say, hey, I just thought I wanted to give you an update on what's going on with me. Maybe like 2 or 3 sentences. I just started this new job. This is what I'm working on. And this is a very important thing to say. I'll always say, no need to respond to this. No response necessary. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. And again, it's always about being cognizant of when you're putting a burden on somebody. And even a response, responding to somebody is like a burden. When I ask for an intro, when I ask to introduce somebody, I'll say no obligation, obviously, at the end of it. And I'm constantly cognizant of when I'm potentially putting burdens on it, because a lot of times we see opportunities to create value for ourselves, and we don't always necessarily realize that there's potentially a cost for somebody else when we take advantage of those opportunities. So yeah, I'll make it about them. I'll pepper in something about myself, and then I'll throw in the no response necessary.
Right.
And like now, what I'll do, like a little trick that I'll do is, like I'm creating all this various content that I'm trying to sell. And I'm gonna hook everybody up here with some free stuff. So I won't try to sell anything. But what I'll do is every person that I mention in like a 4-hour class, like their product or their service, I'll just email them and just say, hey, just want to let you know I mentioned your product in this thing. It's in section 3.78 at minute 4. Here's a free code, check it out. Just wanted to let you know, no obligation, no response necessary. Half those people will then go ahead and promote my entire class to their audience because they like to humble brag about themselves. They were mentioning something. But like the thing is when I say no response necessary or no obligation, I'm not asking them to promote it, and all of a sudden they now think it's their idea to show this thing to their audience, and I don't look like somebody who's self-promotional.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, lots of times people always make the ask clear, but I think by actually having them realize the ask clear.
Yeah, well, you can assume that it's like in a like a lot of like you can make the ask clear, but a lot of times you can accomplish, I'd say 8 out of 10 times if you're like have a good relationship with somebody, you can accomplish the same thing without explicitly asking. So like a lot of times, instead of asking for, if I'm unsure whether somebody wants to make an intro, but I see that they have connections at a company, I'll just say, hey, do you know who the right person to be connected, that the right person who I might need to talk to would be at this company? And then they'll offer up the intro. And all of a sudden, like, it was their idea to give me the intro instead of me asking.
Right.
But you need to like it comes with a sense of like calibration with like not only like where like your relationship with that person, but honestly like how somebody perceives you. Because quite frankly, like we live in a world where people, unfortunately as it is, they see like it's always like, well, do I want to align myself with this person? Do they have the propensity to create value for me in my life? And if they do, I'm more likely to do something for them.
Right.
So like, if you're in a position of leverage and power, because of that, you can expose that.
Right.
You can use that to your advantage, and people will do things for you that they might not necessarily consider.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So I know we talked a little bit about creating serendipity in an in-person meeting. How do you go about creating this sense of serendipity when you're reaching out to somebody online?
So I think when like you're relationship building with somebody online that is in a position of power, you have to earn their time offline. Like, you're competing in like when you're trying to get a meeting or something with somebody really busy, like a really busy blogger, like you're going up against a bunch of other people that are asking this time, a bunch of other demands this person already has in their time. And essentially, like, I think what I try to do is start off by familiarizing myself, right? So I want this person to say, like, who's this person who just keeps, like, responding to me on Twitter or commenting on my blog or showing up where I am, and just kind of familiarize yourself. Then you want to take advantage of, it's called the law of reciprocity, where essentially when you do something positive for somebody else, they're more likely to do something for you. They're more likely to reciprocate. So when, like straight up, like when somebody does something really nice for me, like I'll be more likely to go and get on a phone call with somebody or go get coffee with that person.
Yeah.
Then somebody just reaches out to me and is like, hey, can I take your time?
Yeah.
Because I read something and I think it'll help me and I'd love an hour at a time.
Right.
So, like, it's familiarizing yourself, then like creating value to that person in a way that, like, wow, this person did something really nice for me unsolicited, whether it was provide incredibly transparent feedback on something I wrote, or be the first person to answer me on Twitter all the time, or send something to all their friends that I did or created, or get a bunch of people to sign up for my app or website. And all of a sudden, like, I feel like I need to pay that person back. Now, people that are familiar with this dynamic might not be as easy to persuade to reciprocate,
Right.
but a lot of people, like, that dynamic exists. Like, it exists where if you do positive things for someone, like, they're gonna feel an onus to reciprocate. And so, essentially, it comes back to the same thing over and over again, where it's, you make this person's lives better, you create value, you do things for them, and then, they're more likely to do things for you. And so, there's a lot of mechanisms to create value online, whether it's feedback, whether it's introductions, whether it's sourcing direct needs, like answering a question on Twitter, seeing who a company's hiring on their jobs page, connecting them with relevant people who might be a good fit for that. But you can take advantage of all those opportunities, and then, when the timing is right, you can ask to meet with that person, and instead of putting yourself in a bucket of an obligation, because you've helped this person out so much, they want to reciprocate.
Right.
Which is the foot that you want to start off a personal meeting with.
That's awesome. So now that we're talking about kind of creating this rapport before actually officially reaching out to somebody and asking them for something, what are some of the other reasons, aside from not creating that that need for reciprocity, that people won't respond to a cold email I sent out?
Because you write it poorly.
What do you mean?
So when you go up, this is what I tell people. So if you go up to somebody, if you approach somebody at a bar and you say some, like you say like a couple sentences to somebody of the opposite sex you're attracted to, and they turn you down and they tell you to go away or whatever, they're not judging you, they're judging the 3 things that you said. And the same thing exists in email. Somebody doesn't know me, they don't know the company that I work for, they don't know all the ways that I can help them out and how I've worked with past partners in the past. The only context they had to judge me from is the 4 to 10 sentences that I've written in an email. So if I can't write effective, and I'll go ahead and debunk like some of the big mistakes that I see with cold emails. The declaration sentence. Somewhere along the way, some sales guru told everyone that they need to start off an email that's by the names, "Hi, my name is Scott, and I do business development for Single Platform. And we've been funded by Series B investors, X, Y, and Z, and people generally love us." And it's like, if you went up to somebody at a bar and declared how awesome you were as the first thing you said, I'd be like, get this tool away from me. I don't want to be your friend. Like, however, if the first thing you say to me is relevant to me and does not seem like something that you've written 500 times, you all of a sudden put yourself into a different bucket of people. So, you know, I never start off an email with, "Hi, my name is, this is what I do, and this is what my company does," because I give people enough credibility that they can scroll down to my email signature, see my title, see the company I work for, see the URL of my email address, and figure out all these things themselves. And I make immediately why I'm reaching out to them incredibly relevant to them. Because the goal of the first sentence of a cold email is to get somebody to read the second sentence. The goal of the second sentence is to get somebody to read the third sentence. The goal of the third sentence is to get somebody to reply or read the fourth sentence. And that's the way I look at it. It's just an effective copywriting exercise. So, you know, I literally write emails as if I was trying to write a hook for a chapter of a book or a blog post. And the first sentence of a cold email that I'm reaching out to somebody that I can help is, "Hey, I noticed you guys aren't doing X," or "I noticed you don't have X, or Y," whatever it is. Whatever that is pointing to directly the issue that my company would be able to optimize, right? So give me an example of, so what does Lean Startup Mission do?
For larger companies, we can come in and do private workshops to help them set up innovation labs.
Got it. Okay, so maybe I would, let's say that I went on their Facebook page and I saw that they have like some innovation speaker to come, or they, on a blog post or something, they did something around like innovation or corporate development. I would say, "Hey, I noticed you guys I saw your recent blog post and I noticed you guys are making an investment in digital innovation," and I would link to that blog post. And then I would go ahead and say something like, "Well, my company actually works with organizations just like yours to foster, to do innovative workshops in order that their employees can be more productive and creative." You know, and that when you frame an email like that, instead of, "Hi, my name is this, here's a bunch of numbers and things that aren't important," all of a sudden it seems like it's a much more conversational thing. It seems like I just happened to be walking by your blog and saw that you guys are doing this, and hey, what the hell, I'll figure out, reach out and see if you're interested in talking. That's much more of an, as a matter of fact, conversation than the 50 other cold emails and LinkedIn messages that this person's getting that says, "Hi, my name is." And what happens is when you write emails like that, it's a trigger that sets off that people say like, "Oh, this is a cold email from some sales guy, delete, I'm not even gonna read." So you need to remove yourself from that bucket by using different languages. So like an example on a cold call is that when somebody cold calls me at my house and they say, "Hi, my name is this from this company," I immediately, my brain goes into, this is a cold call, I'm not listening, how can I get off as fast as possible while still seeming polite? And that's the mindset that I go into. And this person, by saying those words, has created a trigger that propagates certain action. And so I think the same thing exists when we write emails. People see this and they go, "Oh, this is a cold email sales guy that doesn't know me. Yeah, delete. I don't like my time." So you need to remove yourself from that by talking a different way.
Totally. Go for it.
So, you're a really busy guy. You probably get tons and tons of emails, right? So can you talk a little bit about how you handle like is it appropriate, I guess, like let's say you get an email from someone, is it ever appropriate to like maybe hand it off to someone else, maybe your intern, your assistant, or another person in your office, or maybe just flat out say, "No, I can't help you"? Like, how do you go about kind of politely saying, "Sorry, I'm just way too busy to talk to you," basically?
So it depends the context, but yes, I'll delegate. I'll also put up barriers. I'll put up obstacles. So for example, a lot of people will say like, "Hey, I want to get on a phone call and talk about your API for my bullcrap startup that won't be around in 4 months." And I'll ask them to fill out 3 questions. And 9 out of 10 people don't want to fill out the questions, and they're just looking to suck my time. So I weed those people out by putting up an obstacle. Somebody asked me, "Hey, I want to get into biz dev. Can we get together for coffee?" I'll say, "Read these 3 blog posts and give me responses about what you thought of them." 9 out of 10 people don't do it. So I'm constantly putting up obstacles that weeds out people that are serious from people that are not serious and just time takers. And that's a really effective time management strategy to deal with a bombardment of inbound requests in any asset. Figure out some type of obstacle that qualified leads will actually do and ask them to do it. And then that's how you isolate who you're actually going to spend your time with.
Hi, so in a cold phone call, how do you not say your name? The first sentence, how do you not say your name and that you're from a single platform? And how do you say,
So I say Scott Britton from single platform here. And it's literally as small as saying I'm accomplishing the same thing except I'm not saying hi, my name is. And then I immediately engage him in a question. Say, "I was hoping maybe you could help me out." Pause. And then all of a sudden, now they're putting their ear close to the phone and they say, "Yeah?" Or, "Sure, how can I help?" And all of a sudden, I've now engaged them in a dialogue instead of, just robotically spitting off my spiel and hoping that they listen while they politely think, "How can I get off this freaking phone call without seeming like a douche?"
That's brilliant because like in an email, you obviously don't have to say that the first sentence because it's your signature, right? You can literally just lean into a very lean, creative first sentence. You can't do that with the phone. So
I also think generally, like, I try to calibrate my voice and tone like somebody you want to do business with. Right? Like, you have to, people do business with people they like. People want to get on calls, people they think are interesting or funny or lively. So we get on the phone, I intentionally ham it up in terms of, how I try to sound. I'll be like, "Hey, Scott Britton from single platform here. Hey, I was hoping you could help me out." I will sound like I just walked out of a sweaty burrito shop and I'm really struggling. And that's incredibly humanizing, which makes people more likely to respond because I don't seem like you're a row on a spreadsheet. You seem like legitimately you're the one person that I call because I have this thing that I need your help with. And that's just a much more effective way than, "Hi, my name is Scott Britton. Is the director of marketing there?" It's just not the way to do it.
So I have a quick question for you guys. What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced, or some of the harder parts about writing cold emails or getting responses? Go for it.
As far as life hacks go, what do you do? Like when you just have a big list of people to email and people to contact, and you're just going back and forth from that over and over again all day for emails. What do you do to not just get self burnt out on that? Because that's kind of what I did today. I'm pretty burnt out right now.
So are you leveraging like canned responses and templates?
Well, I wasn't doing so much what you said before. Hi, I'm saying like saying that.
Well, but I'm saying like, are you retyping the email over and over again?
Now I'm switching things up a little bit. It's kind of like the same form, but I'm trying to at least tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. So I think in general, when I like have to do a mundane task that I have to do over and over again, I'll just like schedule and batch the task. So like, for example, if you're gonna cold call or cold email and you don't want to do it, what happens is you're gonna pick more low resistance tasks and do those first and find excuses not to do the thing you don't really want to do. So you just gotta schedule like a 3-hour block and be like, all I'm gonna do is cold email for this. I'm just gonna send out emails, or I'm just gonna cold call. And then you just go ahead and execute it during that time, and then you give yourself permission to take a break and do something else. And that's, for me, when I have to do something really hard, that's like the scheduling and just like, I'm gonna bear down for X amount of time, then I'm gonna reward myself after with a break or doing something else, or hiking, whatever it is. I think like that's an effective way to get through like mundane and or really hard challenging tasks. Because a lot of times what happens, I know with myself, I have something I don't want to do, I'll find other things to do that aren't as important, I'll self-justify why I should do those, and then eventually what happens is I won't actually end up doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. Which is why I have to schedule it. If it's not on the schedule, it's not real.
I did Alex Towns online with class in that. He said that you really have to get used and comfortable with being rejected. So have you got any tips on how to build up your resistance to that?
So, yeah, definitely. So I'm like obsessed with overcoming rejection. I think that the only way to really overcome it is a couple things. Detach yourself from the outcome, and doing that by, again, realizing that they're not judging you, they're judging what you said. They're judging what you did. So they're judging the email you wrote. They're not judging your company, because how can somebody know about all the wonders of your company or who you are as a person in 3 or 4 sentences, right? So, one, detach yourself from the outcome. And then secondly, I think in general, like a really effective practice is to, in all aspects of your life, to put yourself, be intentional about getting outside your comfort zone and building up the rejection tolerance muscle. So I always ask for more meat every time I go to Chipotle. Like, I approach random people on the street that I think are attractive. I write an insane amount of cold email people. This has taken like years of practice, but like it's just about like working the rejection muscle. And it's just about just getting comfortable of just putting yourself out there over and over and over again, and then seeing the rejection happen and being like, whoa, I'm okay. I'm still here. It's all good. I've survived. And then that cognizance over and over again allows you to continue to build that to a point where all of a sudden this thing that you used to be afraid of is now just something that you do. I don't know if that was a good answer.
Yeah.
But I think like just being really intentional about doing that thing that scares you is just the best way to overcome it. And I also think another great thing too is to find somebody to model yourself off to and off of something that you're scared of and see them do it in action. So like if you think that if you're scared of, say, making a cold call, go find somebody that cold calls all day and just watch them do it. be like, whoa, like this is someone just like me doing this thing that scared the crap out of me. And they're alive and breathing, and they're about to go to Chipotle and ask for more meat. Like, that is a very empowering thing. Also, accountability partners. So if you have something that you're scared of doing and you feel like you're not going to do it, find somebody that's battling with the same issue and or just generally cares about you as a person, and have them keep you accountable. So maybe you don't like the fact that you send 10 emails a day and no one responds. Have that report at the end of every day to one person in your life that you've decided you want to be your accountability partner, and say, hey, I'm going to send 10 emails a day. I'm going to send you an email at the end of the day verifying that I did that. Is that cool? And all of a sudden, now that you have this other person who's potentially judging you, if you don't accomplish this task, you're more likely to do it because you're afraid of disappointing somebody who is in your life and has certain opinions.
Follow-up question. So I usually make calls and then I'll send an email, and it's like, what is that next step? Because sometimes those emails, I swear, go to a wasteland. I don't know. We had this nice 20-minute chat, and it's like, shoot, what is the best way to then go there?
So is the question if somebody goes cold on you?
Yes.
Okay, so my favorite tactic for when somebody goes cold on me, that I had a conversation with, it was all hugs and kisses.
And that's it, yes.
And then they just go cold on me. What I like to do is blame myself for the miscommunication gap. And what happens is when you blame yourself, that person will come out and tell you what's really going on. So I had a great call with somebody. They didn't get back to me. I emailed them again. They didn't get back to me. I left them with a really sweet voice message. They didn't get back to me. And I'm like, this person's intentionally avoiding me. What I'll then do is send me like, hey, I don't know where we got off the wrong foot, but I just want to apologize for the gap in miscommunication. I don't know where somewhere along the way I led you astray or said something that might have offended you, but I just want to let you know that I really want to help you however I can, and I apologize for whatever miscommunication gap. All of a sudden, this person is like, wait, no, it's not you. So like our VP of marketing left, and now I have to find this new person, and actually we still are interested, but not interested right now, I just didn't know how to respond.
Yeah.
And they'll come forward and they'll say exactly why they didn't get back to you.
Right.
Because you've effectively taken the blame for something that they know was their fault, and thus they'll actually go ahead and list the information.
Yeah.
So I'll do things like that. Other things that you can do is mention other positive instances of results. Just like, hey, just want to send you an email about this awesome thing we did. No response necessary, but we're clearly kicking ass, and everybody's having a party over here except you. Or you can do things like, find a way to bring to the forefront that you're working with a competitor in a non-abrasive way.
Right. Yeah.
So a way to do that is so I'll call someone, or I'll send someone an email hey, just want to let you know, I just wanted to let you know that in 2 weeks we're going live with competitor Y, and I just wanted you to hear from me and not read it somewhere else. And because I care about this relationship, and I want to make sure that you know that I have your best interest in mind or something. And all of a sudden it's oh, this guy's being a good guy. He's telling me about, he's keeping me in the loop about the competitors. In reality, I'm just trying to get you to move.
Right.
But that's an effective tactic as well.
What would the subject of that email be? I guess in general, are there any awesome subjects that you want
The apologies,
No,
So,
if you lost touch with someone, right? And you think they're intentionally ignoring you.
reconnecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always try to make the subject lines. So the way that I think about email subject lines, the longer somebody has to figure out why I'm emailing them, the more work it is for them. The more work it is for them, the less likely they'll respond. So I just like to be incredibly direct. I don't want it to be a guessing game. I'm not playing hard to get on email. Listen, I just want you to know why I'm emailing you, and not to be like, inverted push-ups for you to figure out what I'm
You
trying
ever
to
like
do.
ask a question in something?
I used to. I've kind of gotten away from that because I think it seems hokey. But yeah, because what happens is I start to notice like patterns. For example, a pattern is everyone who emails me on LinkedIn is typically never somebody that I want to do business with. It's always recruiters, people trying to sell me crap, like random guys from Indonesia. There's never anybody that's like really legit emailing me on LinkedIn. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to put myself in that bucket, so I'm never going to LinkedIn message somebody if I don't have to. Same goes with question emails. Do you want to make more money on your online course? Do you want to do this? It's like everyone who's emailing me questions was like some online marketer's skis bag. So I was like, I don't want to put myself in that bucket. So, you can think of it as like maybe somebody with purple hair or like highlighter orange hair is an awesome person, but like if everyone that you've ever met with orange highlighter hair is like crazy death metal music person, like that's all that person has to judge you on. Thus, you're gonna be put in that bucket.
So, you touched on a couple of psychological hacks. First one being kind of, hey, I was wondering if you could help me out. And people have this kind of need, and every person has this desire to help other people. And you also touched on when you're looking up to a mentor, talking about something that they created and how you put it into your life. And then now lastly, kind of the example of somebody hasn't responded to you, and it's actually the other one screwing up, you take the blame, and then they're coming out like, oh, no. Are there any other things that you really realized are almost kind of constant across people that have changed the game for how you deal with people, whether it's business or personal life?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. There's definitely a ton of stuff I'm trying to think about. So I think there's ways to be. There's ways to say there's certain ways to say things, say the same exact thing in an abrasive and a non-abrasive way. And literally, like 2 word changes can make the difference, right? Mm-hmm. And so the classic example is I could say something like, a crass joke, and if I put, or like something that's kind of like scathing, and there's a big difference if I put a smiley face at the end of it or not, right? Seriously, it really is. So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you're a jerk, or, oh, you're kind of funny and witty.
Yeah.
And so like I'm constantly trying to, whatever I say, especially in email, like I'm constantly trying to put myself in the other person's shoes and think about how I can tailor it so that it comes off, so that I can say something in such a way that does not come off negatively, but accomplishes the same thing, right? So instead of saying like, a great example of this is how I bring up working with competitors. And my boss, Kenny Herman, taught me this. He's like, the biggest badass ever. So I could say, for working with competitors, if I said like, yeah, and we work with competitors X, Y, and Z, and you should work with us too, all of a sudden it seems like, wow, like, cool, like, you're not somebody that I like want to go grab a beer with. I could accomplish the same exact thing by saying, one of the things that X, Y, and Z love about us is that we do real-time updates everywhere they listen. And all of a sudden now, I've accomplished the same thing because I've implicitly stated that we work with these people, but I don't look like a douche. And people do things for people that they like. People buy from people they like. So it's always in your best interest to be a likable person and to be a nice guy. And so thus, like, you should constantly be looking to reframe statements in ways that make you look nice, or make you seem like a nice guy, or like you're not like just one jerk, but still accomplish and communicate the same thing, right? And like classic examples of classic. Another like thing within that vein is like using good cop, bad cop. So a lot of times you can't accommodate somebody's request. You can't do something for whatever reason. There's always somebody else within your organization that you can point the finger at as the reason why you can't do that. You're the good guy, somebody else is the bad guy, right? So, hey, I could ask for somebody for a progress update on a deal that I'm doing by saying like, hey, I need to know where the deal's at because I want to know. Or where's the deal? Like, what's happening? Is it illegal? Or I could say something like, hey, I have to do a progress report to my boss every Wednesday, and you have to go over where all the deals are, and I just want to make sure that I'm prepared for the meeting, so he knows what's going on. Can you give me any color for the insight? And all of a sudden, I'm just the guy trying to do his job, and I'm asking for something, and I have this overbearing boss who's looking for the favor. So that's a powerful one. I think there's an art of making a no seem like a yes. So when you can't do something for somebody in any active life, a trick you can do is say no, but then make it seem like you want to say yes. Like there'll be like somebody like, hey, do you know any VCs that are investors in this space? And maybe in reality, like I know one investor, but I know he's not making any investments, and I don't want to like put a burden on his time. I'll say what I'll always do is like, I actually don't right now, but just in case, let me know like what type of investor, like size fund that you're looking for. And all of a sudden I said no, but I've asked this person to give me like ammo so that I have opportunities to say yes, and like, wow, like that's turning a no into a yes. Like I've turned that no into like what would have been a negative interaction now into a positive interaction where somebody's like this person, and quite frankly, like, yeah, I really will if there's an investor that makes sense, but you just can't always say yes to everything.
Right.
So that's a way that you can, by following up onto a no, you can say the right words to turn that negative interaction to a positive. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll totally give you more ammo to go and find out, like, figure out like what positive outcome could come from this.
Right. Totally. Cool. So now I kind of want to switch it over a little bit more towards productivity. I love it.
Yeah, just one more. So I'm just wondering, like, what's next for you? Like, what are you still working on at BizDev? What things are you struggling with right now? Like, what's on your plate?
So I guess just a little background on my job. So we had this product where I joined a little over a year and a half ago. This company's single platform. We have a product that you type in your name, address, and phone number. If you're a local business, your restaurant, spa, salon, you're listed on hundreds of sites and apps. People are trying to find local businesses. So Google Places, Yelp, Urban Spoon, Foursquare, a ton of places where people make decisions about where they're going to eat, where they're going to get their laundry done, where they're going to get calla lilies for their girlfriend on Valentine's Day. I don't know what calla lilies are. That's all I see example names. Nice. So basically, before single platform, there's no way for people to control their information across all those sites. So if I changed the price of a steak au poivre from $27 to $21 on my menu on my website, that probably my next door neighbor Bill, whose brother moved away to college, who now I can't change the site, it's a huge problem. We make it really easy for you to make those changes everywhere you're listed, so that you're always not only portrayed in general, but portrayed accurately. What I did there was basically, along with my teammate, I've done content distribution deals through an API, so that every time somebody enters in the menu with their photos, with their name, address, and phone number in our portal, it propagates across all those sites instantly. So that's what I did originally. I've done a ton of different stuff with data around there, and the company got bought like 6 months ago by Constant Contact for $100 million. Awesome exit. And what I'm working on now is basically channel deals where there's companies out there that have 10, 20, 30,000 customers who would benefit from our product. I'm working on relationships to introduce our product to their customer bases. So essentially reseller relationships where you're going to sell into your customer base, we're going to do a revenue share, and it's a very low touch way for us to acquire more businesses and more data without having to have the overhead of sales, customer service, and ultimately empowering somebody else. Not only a way to make money, but a way to provide a ton of value through a great product to the customers. So that's what I'm working on. I mean, what I want to do next, start a company or work for a really early stage company with badass people. Yeah, I don't know. But right now, getting some channel deals in, which is good.
And going back to like the Scott Britton entrepreneur, it seems like you have built up an excellent portfolio of assets. You have a book that you wrote 5 or so years ago. I mean, you have a couple classes online, content. How have you gone about spending some of your time, obviously focusing on tasks at hand, yet at the same time developing or delegating time to build up this portfolio of assets?
Yeah, so I think in general, like, there's just a tremendous amount of value in content and audience, and specifically how that manifests itself in my life is like blogging. Blogging, and then it's branched out from creating an ebook to create teaching classes in person, and now teaching online courses. And the way that I think about it is these are assets that scale throughout the life cycle of my career. So I look at people in New York. I look at people that are starting companies in New York City. Do you think that Chris Dixon ever has trouble hiring developers? How many guys do you think sold one company before Hunch that had trouble hiring developers? What's the difference? Chris Dixon has a huge audience where he's developed thought leadership, where people respect and trust his opinion. And he's leveraged that audience to create a ton of value in his life. So the way that I look at it is, like, if I can create an audience around thought leadership, around ideas things that I've learned that are important to me, that's a really huge asset that is going to be valuable to me if I'm a tech CEO, going to be valuable to me if I'm a PD dude, going to be valuable to me if I want to go write books, going to be valuable to me if I decide I want to be a rap artist and sell a CD. I'll have a channel of people whose attention I have that I can get distribution in, which is why I invest in it. And ultimately, I think about, okay, so you're an aspiring tech CEO. What's important? Well, in my opinion, from flailing at starting a tech company to working for amazing entrepreneurs who's just sold this company, the same thing here over and over again is team. It's all about team. So when I think about what I can do to hedge my success as a tech CEO or a tech startup guy, is the most valuable thing I can do is attract a great team. Attracting a great team is a sales and marketing challenge. So I'm going to invest a lot of time in getting really good at sales and marketing. And the best technologists want to work with the best technologists, but if I can convince the best technologist that I'm the best person at a complementary skill set for him, then I've had it won, because that person will attract everybody else. So I spend a ton of time in audience, and I think like what a lot of people, how to be successful at that is realize that it's an incredibly long tail opportunity. I've been writing for 2 years. I think I've written over 190 blog posts. Nobody read the first 60. A lot of people will say, I'm going to start a blog or I'm going to start a book. They'll write 3 things. They won't see an immediate return, and then they'll say, well, I tried. And yeah, like, you're not gonna reach like you're not gonna be Fred Wilson overnight. Guess what? Like Fred Wilson's blog is like 8 years old, right? It's an incredibly long tail opportunity, but it's something that if you stick with it, you can create a really meaningful asset that's transcendent, that can transcendently create value for you in just a ton of different elements of your life. And so now like like that's manifesting itself in my life in actually making money and selling content online, giving me better job opportunities. Because if you're really good at what you do, but the only people that know that are the people in your company, then you're not maximizing the optionality that you create for yourself. So it's important not only to be excellent at what you do, but to let people know that. And content is one mechanism which you can deliver that.
So do you wake up just every day with like a list of tasks that you want to do, like write this new blog post, send out 15 cold emails? Are you very regimented, or how do you go about spending your day to day, or how do you spend your days?
So, I think, so my workflow for scheduling and allocating time is, I create this list of yearly goals, all the things I want to accomplish this year, defined by like what 5 areas of my life are most important. And every month, at the beginning of that month, I go ahead and I outline like what goals I want to focus on and accomplish in that month. And then every week on Sunday, I spend an hour figuring out how I can accomplish those goals and what tasks I need to do. And then every single morning, I wake up and then I plan out what I'm going to do to accomplish those tasks. It's kind of a funnel down to the specific day. And then the most important part is I actually schedule those tasks, so that I actually do them. Because to-do lists are really easy, and it's really easy to do the easy stuff on the to-do list. When you actually schedule out like what you're going to do, it makes it much easier to actually abide by doing hard stuff. So I think if you want to get more shit done, you have to be cognizant of the value of planning and scheduling, and take one step back and take an hour out of your week on the weekends, take 10 minutes a day every morning to plan and schedule your days so that you're incredibly intentional with your time instead of being incredibly reactionary and doing a whole lot of stuff but not doing anything that's important. And what I do is I'm pretty much up at 6 a.m. every day, and I do the hardest, most important things to me from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. at a time when no one can distract me. I have no excuse not to do it except for laziness. Because if you have a nights and weekends project that you really want to accomplish, you save it for the night, there's a million distractions, your willpower is diminished, there's a million reasons not to do it. No one's asking you for beers to go get beers at 6 a.m., right? It's just you and whatever you need to get done. If you don't get it done, it's because you didn't get it done. So I want to remove as much external friction to accomplishment of what I want to get done as possible, and I do that by waking up early.
So,
Just a quick question going back to the whole task stuff. Is there any sort of apps you're using, or it's just a bunch of post-it notes on a big plain board or something to that degree?
Is this TV work?
yeah.
So I use this system called 5 boxes. I use a system called 5 boxes. So I think there's like just inherent flaws in to-do lists because basically to-do lists don't allow for proper geez, there's some bad stuff on there. Whatever. Let me see if I can get one of my to-do lists on here without actually all my stuff. Okay. Okay, so essentially, this is my daily planner. basically, when you create a to-do list, the biggest flaw of to-do list is the fact that they're not conducive to prioritization, right? So when you have a list of 15 items long, it's incredibly hard to order those in order of importance, right? So what happens is you get a lot done, you don't get the important things right. And you're also not accountable to all areas of your life. So you could be kicking ass at work, but you could be a crappy boyfriend, an absent son, and in terrible shape. So what I do is, I got this from a guy named Peter Bregman. I identify the 5 most important areas of my life. That's where I'm going to spend 95% of my time. For me, these are be excellent at my job, share and spread my ideas, have fun and take care of myself, present with family and friends, grow spiritually and personally, other 5%. These 5 right here, I'm spending 95% of my time. And essentially what I do is every morning I allocate the tasks in each one of these buckets, right? So I create mini to-do lists that are in alignment with all the areas of my life that are important to me, which makes them incredibly more easy to manage. Because it's easier to prioritize a list of 3 than a list of 15. And then what I do is, and this is Trello, by the way. I use Trello to do this. And this is like Daily Planner Tuesday. So I have Daily Planner Monday through Sunday. And then I have a weekly planner that has all the goals of the week I will accomplish. So this makes it easier to prioritize. It also makes me easier to stay accountable in all areas of my life that are important to me, right? Because guess what? Like, if the have fun and take care of myself is empty every day, and my work thing is this every day, like, guess what? Like, I'm not allowing myself to have any fun, thus I'm not happy, and I need to change that. And this is a visual depiction that allows me to remind myself of that, and thus calibrate my actions accordingly. So I do this every morning. I check them off as I go. I schedule them, schedule the times in after I do this, and this just helps me get things done. And I can say stuff like, okay, you know what, like, I'm just gonna focus on work and being present with family and friends for the first 12 hours of my day, or whatever it is. And all I have to look at is 4 things instead of 15 things. So that's how those are the apps I use to schedule my time.
So, I'm pretty familiar with Trello and how it works. So, you being a person of your magnitude, are you working in groups where the groups are also sharing on different boards on Trello, or?
I just use it from a personal standpoint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just use it for my own. I actually don't do any like collaborative planning outside of like Google Calendar. I work on a small team with just me and one other guy, so.
With that scheduling, I'm thinking about how you talk about your follow-up with different individuals, folks that you're looking to engage and build relationships with. Say for the people that you're trying to not go cold, or people that you just met, do you also schedule those interactions like, okay, I need to talk to this guy in 2 weeks because he's having a crazy week next week. Do you also do that, or like how do you manage those tasks?
Yeah, so I guess like, are you talking about like how to like stay on top of the network essentially?
Within
or
the
like
network,
the relationship building process?
Because that's that kind of compounds into everything. I mean, truth be told, yep, I'll schedule time to talk with my mom. I mean, I do. So it's the same thing. I'm just like, how do we continue to? I'm just looking to see how you have handled it in terms of building those relationships, whether they're personal, networking, collaborations, and the like.
Yeah, so I think the answer is focus. So like it'd be very easy for me to like, I'm gonna do a relationship with like 23 people this month. It's like I'll just focus on one person, 1 or 2 people.
Right.
And then what I do is I use a tool called Boomerang. When I ping someone, I'll go ahead and find a message in the sent folder, and then I'll boomerang. Are you familiar with Boomerang?
I've played around with it.
I'll find it in the sent folder, and then I'll message it back to me in like a month or 2 weeks or whatever interval I want, and that'll serve as a prompt to remind me to send that person something else. I also use a tool called Nutshell Mail. Somebody's on, it's like a lot of people that I'm like building relationships with, at least not directly in alignment with my job, are people on social media, people on Twitter. So I use this tool called Nutshell Mail, where I create a Twitter list of like a few people I'm trying to build a relationship with, and then Nutshell Mail it'll essentially send me interactions on social media sites in my inbox every day at a specified time. So I can get all the interactions of all those people, just that list of people, maybe that 3-4 people, in my inbox every morning. And I can look at that as a way like, okay, can I add any value here? And I don't have any time, I don't have the time to like sit around Twitter and be like, maybe they said something.
Scroll.
Yeah. So I just use Nutshell Mail to isolate those people and then just take a quick glance every day if they say anything important. But I think the key is like, just focusing on a few people instead of like trying to maximize everyone, because it just becomes too much to manage, and what happens is like you end up not really building an awesome relationship with anybody.
Right. Thank you.
Can we go back to the cold calling where you said when you call somebody you say, can you help me out? What do you say after that?
Yeah, so it depends like the context and like where I'm at in the process, right? It's very important to understand what the goal of the call is, right? Because if I'm just trying to find out who the right person is, that's very different than if I know who the right person is and I'm trying to get that person to have a meeting with me. So number one thing, establish what is the goal of a particular call. And I think it's important to understand that when you cold call someone, you're interrupting their day. Thus, they're not primed to be receptive to your pitch. So the goal of a cold call, in my opinion, the only goal of a cold call should be to find out who the decision maker is or set a meeting so that you can get them in a situation where they're conducive to being pitched instead of in the middle of something trying to sell them something. So when I'm trying to find a decision maker, I'll say, hey, Scott Britton here from Single Platform. Scott Britton from Single Platform here. I was hoping maybe you could help me out. And then I'll say, I was trying to connect with the person who manages specific initiative X. Any chance you know who that would be? And then they'll give me a name. And once I have the name, at that point, that's all I need, because I'll use that person's name to then approach via email, because I think that that's an optimal way to approach the people that I'm targeting. They're used to communicating on email, and I'd rather connect with them and allow them to process my inquiry on their time instead of interrupting their day to talk to them. It's not where I want to start off a relationship. So, I'll ask if they know who the right person is. If they say yes, I'll say, I'll just go for the gold and say, hey, all right, do you happen to have their email handy? I'd love to send them something on X. If they say no, I can't do that, that's fine. I already got the name, I can guess the email. If they say, no, sorry, I don't know who it is, the next question is that's okay. Any idea who might know who that person might be that I can connect with? And then you just go and repeat the same process until you get the name. Trying to actually get a meeting with somebody, it's a little bit different. You know you're talking to the right person. So, hey, Scott Britton from Single Platform here. And usually at this point, I would have sent them an email. So I'll reference that and say, hey, I sent you an email on X, Y, and Z. Did you happen to get a chance to see it? And maybe they'll say yes. Yeah, I wanted to connect with you about this. Is that something you guys have ever considered? And they'll say yes, no, maybe. Let's just assume they say yes. I say, great. I know you're probably in the middle of something right now, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it would be great to connect further on this at a time that's more convenient for you. Because I want to acknowledge to that person that I'm interrupting them and apologize for it. And I'll say, do you have 10 minutes next week? Do you have your calendar open? Whatever it is. But I try to make it a lot of questions, so that it seems like an interaction instead of me just pitching. And I never want to pitch them because I know that they're like probably like multitasking. I just want to get a meeting to pitch them when they're ready to be receptive to it.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I've got a question. This has happened to me a couple of times. So I'll connect to someone that's, maybe at a VP level at an organization. We have a great conversation, but it just doesn't seem like after I speak to them a number of times that they're the right individual per se. They might have a narrow view of the organization or doing something slightly different. And I want to now talk to their senior person, like maybe the senior VP or the CFO or something. But I don't want to damage necessarily that relationship or kind of have him then say, oh, I've already spoken to this guy or whatever. I mean, what's a good way to start to move up the organization?
So when I finish a first call, my question is always, so when decisions like this are typically made, is there anybody else that's typically involved? Or who else typically gets involved when decisions like this are made? And that's a polite way of saying, are you the decision maker? And they'll, sometimes they'll say, oh, we typically like involve our the VP of marketing and then maybe the product person or whatever. And I'll say, great. Or you can say something like, when you guys make decisions like this, what are typically the next steps? And then what I try to do is I try to insert myself into the equation of owning the internal pitch. Because what happens a lot of times is when you pitch someone and then they're responsible for going in and pitching their organization, you're effectively letting somebody who's learned about your product for 7 minutes go and try to sell it internally. There's no way that person can sell it as good as you. So I'll say, listen, I know that you're going to need to talk to your boss about this, or the VP of marketing or the CFO or whatever. I know that person's probably going to have a ton of questions. And why don't we just make this easier on everybody and set up some time for me to go over this with both of you. And effectively what I've done is I've maintained ball control, and now I'm the one pitching. And a lot of times that person will, I send them, you have to realize that they're going to be forwarding. So I write, understanding that, I'll just arm them with great data points or news about competitors or whatever it is, things that compel action, using that person as a vehicle to reach that other person. I never want to go around that person because that person's then going to be pissed at me and think that I'm trying to big time. So I think you have to try to mitigate those instances by figuring out who the other person is early on and inserting yourself into the equation. And if you can't, one thing that I like to do is become friends with that person and try to get them to elicit that information. So I'll be very diligent about taking not only notes on our interaction, but notes on their personal lives. So what sports team do you like? What do you like to do for fun? And I'm constantly just sending them stuff that's related to those things and completely unrelated to our deal or interaction. And that engenders a friendship. And then when I reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on? I just wanted to get a status report on your end. And that person will actually give me the real deal and say, my VP of marketing is mentioning this. And a lot of times it's hard to get that when somebody feels no connection to you. So that's where the additional rapport comes into play.
I know we covered a lot. One last question. So I know you created a pretty awesome sleep hacking presentation, and you supposedly went from 8 hours of sleep to now 6 hours of sleep and lots of energy. Everybody always wants more energy to get more stuff done without having to chug down more and more coffee.
Yeah.
How have you gone about doing that? How can we do the same?
Well, I guess the broad framework is learning about best practices and doing self-experimentation in tandem. But some really quick, easy tips. Just general understanding how well rested you feel isn't determined upon the volume of sleep you got. It's determined how much good sleep you got. So you can sleep the reason why if you go out at night drinking or have a pint of ice cream or whatever it is and sleep 8 hours and still feel like crap the next day, it's because you didn't actually get deep sleep, which is sleep which allows you to feel rested and restored cognitively. So the fact that there's a certain sleep stage that the fact that you can like try to optimize for like really good sleep is what allows you to cut down your sleep but still feel more rested. So things you can do to improve your deep sleep, a lot of them are pretty simple. For one, like exercise, be active. The reason that that's important is a big component of deep sleep is like the degree to which your body temperature actually oscillates 2 degrees every single day. So like, I might be like 98.5 right now, I might be 96.5 when I'm in the middle of my sleep. Bottom line is that the longer amount of time that you can have a low sustained temperature, the more conducive you have to like getting deep sleep. One of the things that allows you to achieve a really low temperature is to achieve a higher temperature during the day. And one of the things that rapidly increases our temperature and creates the maximum oscillation is exercise, so physical activity. So doing strenuous physical activity for 10 to 30 minutes a day has a huge impact. Another thing that's important is regulating the amount of sunlight you get, or high intensity light. Our bodies naturally produce 2 hormones that affect our sleep and energy. One is serotonin, the other is melatonin. You might have seen like melatonin pills. Serotonin is basically a drug or a hormone that makes you happy and it wakes you up. And the way to activate that is to get sunlight early in the day. So like if you can do a morning walk, or if you can not wear sunglasses to work, or be outside and be in the sun early, you're gonna get your serotonin started earlier. In the evening, produce melatonin. That's what happens when it gets dark out. When you produce melatonin, you start to get tired. And it's essentially the hormone that makes you fall asleep. If you do things like interact with your computer or your TV or your cell phone frequently before sleep, you're actually going to inhibit the production of melatonin, which is not only going to make it harder to fall asleep, it's going to make it harder to get deep sleep. So you essentially, there's a few things you can do. Avoid electronic devices and I guess the reason why is those devices emit a blue light that our bodies think is sunlight because it's like such a high intensity blue light. So you can avoid those devices. You can download specific software, like there's this tool I use called Flux, F.lux, I think. It dims the light on my computer screen, takes away all the blue light like after like 5 o'clock in the evening, so that it's not affecting my melatonin production. Another one you can buy, like, this is kind of weird, I don't recommend doing this if it's like a first date. You can buy sunglasses that block out blue light. So if you want to watch TV, you don't want it to mess up your sleep, you can buy those. Another important thing that I didn't know when I started off this is like how close you should eat before you go to sleep. So when we eat a big meal close when we go to sleep, our body's going to be digesting that meal while we're sleeping. That process of digestion is taking away resources that could be allocated for us to like cognitively like get a deeper sleep. So the idea is that you want to avoid having a big meal up until 3 hours before you go to sleep, so that you give yourself the body the ability to digest that food while you're not sleeping, so that you can focus as much cognitive energy as possible as on getting deep sleep. So those are 3 easy tips. There's like a million tips. One thing that actually has really helped me is this is kind of dorky, but I wear breathe right strips when I sleep, and I used to wake up a lot because like I'd start to like snore, like breathe through my nose, or I'd like have trouble, like my nose would get clogged. Breathe right strips like ensure your nasal passages are open throughout the night, which makes it easier to breathe, doesn't cause any disruption in your sleeping. So those are just a few things that definitely help.
Really awesome. So we'll definitely send out that slide deck and then also the tips on how to find people's email address. They're pretty nice blog posts. But on that note, unless there's any questions, we'd like to thank Scott very much
Just
for coming.
real quick,
Go
so
ahead.
is there like an email list or something for this group? All right, so I have 2 courses, one on sleep optimization and one on Gmail productivity, like how to actually just be really good at Gmail. I'm gonna give him free codes. So took all you guys up. They're both like 4 or 5 hours long, all video based online. So you don't have to like show up at the alley at 7 o'clock on Monday night again, listen to blabber. But we'll hook all you guys up in email, so look out for those.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.